It's the British Grand Prix on ITV. We've all the news from the pits with James Allen and Louise Goodman. Martin Brundle turned down the chance of a drive with Sauber to stay in the commentary box alongside Mr. F1. The man who's seen every British Grand Prix since the first one here at Silverstone back in 1950, Murray Walker.
Good afternoon from our eyrie overlooking the start and finish. There it is down there, the 22 cars, and there were 8,000 cars into Silverstone overnight. There are 90,000 people plus here now. It's a new and different and much better Silverstone than it was last year, because the British Racing Drivers Club, who own it, have spent an enormous amount of money removing old parts of the track that were no longer used, grassing them in, and there it is below you. This absolutely superb 3.2-mile circuit, which is going to be the quickest of the year, because yesterday Jacques Villeneuve went round at just under 141 miles an hour to do his pole position lap, and that was Jacques Villeneuve's 6th pole position lap of the year, the 9th of his career. At the present moment, the air temperature is about 19 degrees, the track temperature is about 24 degrees, and it's getting warmer. It's dry. The sky overhead is blue. There are white clouds up there, but how much longer will there be? Because all around me there are solid banks of cloud. I have seen the McLaren weather forecast, and it forecasts everything this afternoon except a plague of locusts, and that could even happen. But we're waiting now for this most important race of the year for Britain to start, in a situation where Michael Schumacher unexpectedly leads the World Championship from the man who was and still is to a great extent the hot favourite, Jacques Villeneuve. Schumacher is 14 points ahead of the French-Canadian, and Heinz-Harald Frentzen, his Williams-Renault teammate, is up there in 3rd position. That's the man, Mika Häkkinen, who held pole position for most of yesterday's qualifying period, only to have it snatched from his eager grasp in the closing minutes by first Villeneuve going into pole position, then Heinz-Harald Frentzen going into 2nd place, demoting Häkkinen to 3rd position, and there is the World Championship leader, Michael Schumacher, 4th on the grid, and not at all unhappy about it. And this race, as ever this year, is going to be a question of tyres and strategy. What's your view, Martin?
Well, I think the start's going to be very important, Murray, because luckily for us this year everything is so close, and there's really, you can't give anything away. And of course we've got a new first corner here. Copse is very much faster, so all of the drivers will be heading into Copse, into the unknown really. They don't brake hardly in a normal lap on slick tyres. They've got a hurtle in there, and everybody's going to have to second guess where the braking point is and how much to slow down. So those two Williams really need to get off the front of the grid well, and I think they should have an advantage, a slight advantage. But if Häkkinen or Michael Schumacher can catapult out of the 2nd row of the grid, nobody has enough of a speed advantage to really just whistle past them. So the start is critical, and as we've seen earlier this year, Frentzen and Villeneuve have made some bad starts.
0.8 of a second cover the first 11 on the grid. David Coulthard in the McLaren is in 6th position. Eddie Irvine in the Ferrari is in 7th place. Johnny Herbert, who went extremely well in the warm-up this morning, 5th fastest, is 9th on the grid. Damon Hill is 12th. Doesn't sound very impressive, but his Arrows Yamaha is giving away something like 100 horsepower. I remind you again that we have a tyre war as well as a car war at Silverstone. The top runners are on Goodyear tyres. Some of the lesser teams are on Bridgestone tyres. But if the weather changes, the Bridgestone tyres are expected to give the drivers an advantage, and Damon Hill there is using that make. So it's all down to Damon now to try to improve on the poor record that he's had this year, mainly because of car problems, although he's made 1 or 2 mistakes himself. And this is his track. And this is the parade lap. How does it go?
Well, the first thing you have to not do is stall the engine. It's very easy. You're waiting for that green flag. You pop it into 1st gear. We saw David Coulthard lose his engine in the Canadian Grand Prix whilst leading. It's very easy just to let the revs drop a bit too low. It wasn't his fault on that occasion. and just sit on the grid. But heading now through a wonderful overhead shot there of Beckett's, one of the most challenging complex of corners in the world, and it tightens up just towards the end and then opens up beautifully into the Hangar Straight. And I can tell you, heading down the Hangar Straight on any day for a test or a Grand Prix in a Formula 1 car is a wonderful experience, because there's a ribbon of tarmac heading off and sweeping into Stowe Corner, which is where they're just exiting now. The curbs there you can see are very flat. They're the new FIA standard. They're very smooth, and you see the drivers using them quite a lot. Club there, that kills the tyres, that corner there. It's such a long time turning and accelerating, and it builds up the temperature in the outside tyre, particularly the outside rear tyre. And I'm expecting the tyres to look a bit horrible in the beginning of the race, because we had a lot of rain overnight. They only ran on wets this morning. The track is going to be what we call green. Some of the rubber gets lifted up, and it tends to be more abrasive. The car slides around, and suddenly you can be driving an animal that feels completely strange to you, something you've not been in all weekend. And I think on the first set of tyres, we could see a few cars overheating their tyres, and basically the rubber just doesn't suit the circuit well at that point, and then the cars will go better on the second and third sets of tyres. I'm expecting 2 stops for most of the runners as they head now into, now they're going to be slowing down, using their brakes hard to get some temperature in the brakes, and practicing some stuff, spinning the wheels, popping it down. You can see Schumacher there using a button on the left-hand side. That was his neutral button, and then he'll pop it into first gear and just keep pumping away on the throttle to heat the rear tyres up, to give himself a better chance, because he's going to be sitting there 35 to 45 seconds on the grid while the rest of the grid forms up. Here he is now, and his tyres are cooling down all of the time, and the pressures are going down, so he's had to put some work in by spinning the rear wheels going up to the line.
So, Jacques Villeneuve, the lead car on the grid in the Williams Renault. Alongside him, it's the first Williams front row of the grid this year. Heinz-Harald Frentzen, when the lights go to red, hello, there's the amber.
Yeah, the amber, I would think somebody stalled his engine as he's come up to the grid, have they? I don't know why the amber lights are on. Yes, well, they're calling for a restart. I would think somebody stalled his engine.
Race director Charlie Whiting there. I saw him in his headphones with the microphone. This is always very sad, because it's a terrible anticlimax, not just for the drivers and the teams, but for the crowd and for us. I mean, we're working ourselves up to tell you about the start, and all of a sudden it doesn't happen. That's Les Jones pulling the trolley, who's Damon Hill's chief mechanic.
There's a lot of work actually getting all of those trolleys, generators and tyres back onto the grid now, because they have to, I mean, they need them there. They could have picked up a puncture on the outlap. They've got to have all of the equipment down there to restart the cars. The driver has no method of starting the car himself. He has to switch it off, otherwise that car will overheat in less than a minute and throw its water out of the overflow. So the drivers have all switched their engines off as soon as they see that red flag, and now the teams have to scream back down the pit lane with all of the equipment to restart the car.
And who has caused to be stopped? The answer is, I do not know, but for sure it's going to start again soon. Well, now we have drama at Silverstone, because you see the grid there. It's stationary, obviously, and the 60-lap race will now become a 59-lap race because there has been no refueling. But the reason that the start did not happen was that Heinz-Harald Frentzen, second on the grid in the Williams Renault, Jacques Villeneuve's chief rival, stalled his engine. And that means officially that Heinz-Harald Frentzen should start from the back of the grid when the race restarts, and that is an appalling blow for him.
Let me tell you how we stall these cars. He's probably using a hand clutch. Some of them use a foot clutch, but in any event, there's no feeling of an over-center of the clutch plate. There's no hydraulic feeling, and it's you're moving an electronic potentiometer basically, and that means that the engine ticks over at something around 2,500 to 3,000 revs, believe it or not, as high as that. So you need something like a minimum of 4,500 revs. But if you hold any higher than that, the engine will overheat immediately. So you have to balance it between keeping the revs down and not stalling the engine. You can see the yellow flags there. They will not let Frentzen take off now. They'll all have to move around, which causes other problems for the cars behind, and he will start from the back of the race. And that is a big problem for Villeneuve, because he needs Frentzen between him and Michael Schumacher to take points off of Schumacher if Villeneuve can win this race, and also gives Michael Schumacher a lovely clear run down to the first corner.
And it's an appalling blow for Heinz-Harald Frentzen. He's had lots of luck in the Williams team this year, nearly all of it bad. Third in the World Championship, and now instead of starting from the front row of the grid alongside Villeneuve and hypothetically being able to take the lead on the first lap if he got away well and better than Villeneuve, he's not only got to start from the back of the grid, but he's got to fight his way through everyone. It's going to need all his German steel and determination to overcome a major psychological and practical problem from now on. He's going to have 59 or 60 laps. I'm still waiting for official confirmation, and I'm mindful of the fact that we had a problem like this earlier this year, as a result of which I called the race on the last lap when it was just about to finish.
We understand Frentzen's having a problem selecting neutral. So that means he was sitting there in first gear. Maybe the clutch started dragging. Even the tolerances and the clearances are so tiny on the way these cars are designed and put together. And he could well have had an overheating clutch. Anyway, the net result is he lost the engine.
And is he going to be the man to watch in this race from now on, together with Villeneuve, Hakkinen and Schumacher? So we've got three different constructors starting from the front of the grid. Jacques Villeneuve in the Williams Renault, Mika Hakkinen, who is behind him but will have a clear space to the right, Michael Schumacher in the Ferrari, and a fourth constructor is fourth on the grid now because it's Ralf Schumacher, Michael's brother, in the Jordan.
Now remember, they haven't been able to change their original tyres, so these tyres are even cooler than before. They need to run at full speed to stay up to temperature. They've now done two relatively slow reconnaissance laps. They've sat on the grid a long time. They were allowed to plug the heaters back in while they sat on the grid, but there's no time at all for them to come up to normal operating temperature. Frentzen's got one of two choices. Drivers go different ways. He can either say, that's really bad luck and I'll get whatever they give me now for the rest of the race, or he can say, this is my best chance to show them what a star driver I am, and just come sailing through the pack.
And look at Michael Schumacher on the left in the Scarlet Ferrari. He has a clear track in front of him where before he had Frentzen.
Notice how some of the cars, Murray, don't line up square to their grid boxes. They line up along the straight. You can see the McLaren there back in 6th place. He's pointing the car where he wants it to go. Damon Hill too there, the two arrows doing the same thing, because it's a curve here onto the start. It's very unusual, and next year it's moving down the straight for the start next year, but it's curved here.
Watch the lights. When all five go on, they will go out, and then the races go. And is it going to be Villeneuve, Schumacher or Hakkinen? Villeneuve gets a good start. Schumacher's alongside him, and sprinting through on the inside comes David Coulthard. David Coulthard tucks in behind Michael Schumacher. Third in the race, and his teammate Mika Hakkinen is behind him. And that was Ukko Katayama, who looks as though he has already spun out of the race. Jacques Villeneuve leads. Michael Schumacher is in second place. Then the two McLarens. Johnny Herbert has come up. Johnny Herbert has come up from 9th on the grid to 5th, and off goes Frentzen. Frentzen, the psychological problem has overcome him. This is going to do him no good at all in the Williams team. His future was already in doubt, and now he's gone out of the race before the end of the first lap.
Yes, I thought I saw some blue smoke back at Beckett's, and it was obviously Frentzen's tyre. He may have hit this guy when he was leaving the start. Remember, Frentzen started right at the back. I wonder if he came through and caught the Minardi. But that Minardi is in a very dangerous position. They've moved it to the opposite side of the track. I'm not sure I'd be happy with that sitting in that particular place. Wouldn't surprise me they don't put a safety car out for that, or maybe just wait for the pack to come through once and give it a second pull out of the way.
Right, now look at the two top men and it's Jacques Villeneuve leading Michael Schumacher. The championship positions are reversed. There is the McLaren, the other McLaren. Johnny Herbert is in 5th position. And over the line they go. 1 lap completed. Villeneuve leads. The gap is 0.8 of a second. And Schumacher is on it. The yellow flags are out.
Safety car, yes. They have to put the safety car out for that Minardi. It's off the racing line, but if any car has a problem, instead of going into the barriers as they should do, they're going to cream into the side of that Minardi, and that won't do the driver that has the off any good whatsoever, and could be dangerous for everybody in that zone. So, sensible decision. They've decided to pull the safety car out. That gives them time. Lots of marshals. I can see lots of marshals on the track now, getting that Minardi out of the way. I don't think this safety car is going to be out for long, Murray.
But look, this is what happens. The safety car is on the track, and the drivers have to line up behind it. And if they had been more spread out, it would have been the responsibility of the safety car to let some of them pass until they were in race order. Well, it's very early in the race. We're only on the second lap now. What a British Grand Prix it is already. First of all, the start gets aborted. Then Heinz-Harald Frentzen goes off. There's only one Williams left in the race. Lap 2, and the safety car is out, coming towards us. But at the end of that first lap, and to some extent it's irrelevant because they are all piling up behind each other now. Here's a replay of the start. Let's have a look and see what happened. There is Heinz-Harald Frentzen starting from the back, and that is Norberto Fontana swerving to avoid Ukko Katayama, who goes into the Armco even before the end of the grid. Here it is again.
Well, let's see if we can see Katayama in the background. He's already... Well, that's really strange. I think he could have had a puncture before he started that race, Murray. It's so easy to do with 2 slow laps like that. He got on the gas, lit up the rear tyres, and turned abruptly right, which is not where he needed to be going.
Now, here it is. You see there's Villeneuve getting away, Schumacher going up, Coulthard going through on the inside and trying to take the Ferrari as they go into Copse. Michael Schumacher shuts the door. Mika Häkkinen comes up behind his teammate, and that was a fantastic start from David Coulthard. And as you can see, there is Villeneuve. Behind him is Michael Schumacher. Behind him are the 2 McLarens, Coulthard and Häkkinen. Johnny Herbert, Ralf Schumacher, who had actually made the fastest lap on the first circuit and is going extremely well, but he's down, he's in 6th position, and now we are on lap 3 of the race. And I'm still waiting for confirmation about the length of it, whether it's 59 or 60. It's 59 laps for the British Grand Prix as a result of the aborted start. Here is Frentzen going off, replay.
Okay, there he is at the back. Oh, yes, there was the blue smoke we talked about. He had a touch with the Tyrrell, which is why the Tyrrell's in the pits. The front wing of the Tyrrell has punctured, and the left rear of Heinz-Harald. And you can see the tyre off the rim there. He could do nothing other than go straight on. It is possible to creep back to the pits in that situation, but he's a long way from home.
All right, we're on the safety car now, as you can see from the writing on the back of the wing. And that's a bad news for Williams. One of their major problems this year has been their inability to get both cars to the finish, let alone in the points. Like the last race was the first race that they'd had both their drivers in the points, and that was in France, and they're certainly not going to have them now with the unfortunate Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who has now got 3 failures to finish in the 9 Grand Prix of 1997. Safety car on lap 4. Looking back, there's Jacques Villeneuve now, and a major problem for the drivers too now is that the safety car, as you can see, is a production car. It's a powerful one, yes, and a quick one, yes, by production car standards, but it is a tortoise as far as Formula One cars are concerned. They're going much, much slower than they would like to go, as a result of which the tyres will cool down, as a result of which they will lose grip, as a result of which also the ride height could decrease. It's a very problematical time.
Yes, it is, and you'll see Villeneuve dropping back from that Mercedes-Benz pace car from time to time, and then absolutely rushing up to the back of it again in an attempt to drive his 700-odd horsepower through the rear tyres and keep the temperature up, keep the pressure up.
Now, I've always traditionally said that this weaving about is to keep the tyres warm. You said the other day it doesn't do that.
No, it's something to do, but it doesn't have much effect. That's what I found, Murray, in my experience. I mean, you might as well do it in this situation. You've got nothing to lose, but it has so little effect because there's no download going through the tyre. There's a bit of camber in the tyre. There's a bit of toe out at the front, a bit of toe in at the rear. So the tyres are working. You can see one driver there. No, He's just jumping on his brake pedal to put some heat into the brakes, which transfers into the tyres. He needs his brakes soon anyway, because I think they'll be restarting at the end of this lap. I wouldn't be at all surprised. Or certainly the lights should be going out on the pace car soon. And you've got to do anything that's in your control to get some tyre temperature back.
Meantime, we're on lap 4 in this 59-lap race. Now, they're coming round the left-hander at Brooklands now. This is towards the end of the lap. They go into the long, what was a double right at Luffield, but it's now, in effect, one continuous corner. It's one of the corners that's been changed. And when the lights go out on the roof of the safety car, it will come in and they will know the race is on. The race is on. The lights are out. The safety car comes in and it's go across the line. Villeneuve leads, Schumacher second. Still, of course, David Coulthard in third position. Hakkinen is fourth. Herbert is in fifth place. Ralf Schumacher is in sixth position. Round the right-hander at Cox at 160 miles an hour. Down towards Beckett's, that fabulous series of corners. They enter them at about 160 miles an hour. They exit them at 140 miles an hour. Down the Hangar Straight, and Schumacher has got Villeneuve in his sights. There's a bit of a gap developing between the Ferrari and David Coulthard, who's in third position. Johnny Herbert going jolly well. And Fisichella in the yellow Jordan is moving up ahead of Alexander Wurz, the Austrian, who was 9th on the previous lap. And he's taken the place of Gerhard Berger. We haven't talked much about him. And Gerhard Berger has been replaced in the Benetton team because he has still not recovered from his sinus problem. Hopefully he will be back, although it's problematical.
Well, there's a big test in Monza this week, and it'll be very critical to see whether Gerhard turns up at that test and drives. Of course, he lost his father in an aeroplane crash last week too, so a lot of sadness in Gerhard's life, and it'll be significant whether he tests in Monza or not this week.
And meantime, look back for the second red Ferrari. It's Eddie Irvine. He's swarming all over Ralf Schumacher's Jordan. There they are. Jordan, Ralf Schumacher in the yellow car, Irvine in the scarlet one, coming through to complete lap 5. So we're up to 1/10 race distance at Silverstone already. McLaren, Sauber. There is Irvine on the tail of Schumacher, and Damon Hill is in 12th position, which is where he started in the Arrows. Behind him is Jarno Trulli and Jacques Villeneuve now. He won last year, remember. He got his revenge over Damon Hill for winning in Canada, Jacques Villeneuve's home country. He wants to make it desperately. A win here, 2 in succession to give him 10 World Championship points. But Michael Schumacher, we're with him now, would be quite happy to stay in the points.
Absolutely right. He's heading down there into the first part of club. He'll probably be happy just to hound Villeneuve all afternoon. Villeneuve cannot lead this World Championship this afternoon, whatever happens. And Schumacher's going to be smiling about Frenson's problems, and Villeneuve is going to be chewing about it. He needs Frenson to help him score or take points away from Michael Schumacher to get the World Championship back on course, and he's not got any help this afternoon. Frenson's in the boonies.
Now, both the McLarens are going better than they have done previously this year, with the exception, of course, of Australia, where David Coulthard won. But there's a gap developing between Michael Schumacher that we're riding with now. Wonderful shot as he comes round the right-hander at Woodcote at about 160 miles an hour. Speed building up to 180 miles an hour. They hardly back off, but Cox 165. That's where they are now. Michael Schumacher, World Championship leader, a double world champion, is hounding Jacques Villeneuve, and the gap between Schumacher in second place and Coulthard, who is third, is already 2.5 seconds. There are effectively just 2 cars in this race for leadership.
Now he's heading down Hangar Straight towards Stowe. You can see Stowe sweeping up there to the right. It'll bounce a bit on the way in. And another significant point, Murray, this afternoon. This is a very, very physical racetrack now. It's much faster, a lot of grip from the new tarmac, and 60 laps, although it'll only be an hour and 20-odd minutes. It's going to be just constant acceleration and G-forces. and I think Schumacher's fitness will be a bonus to him. It'll be interesting to see just how strong and fit Villeneuve is.
Look how he's pushing Jacques Villeneuve's Williams-Renault. You know, I can hardly get used to this as we watch the McLarens of Coulthard and Häkkinen. Herbert, who is 5th, Ralf Schumacher, who's 6th, Eddie Irvine, who is 7th, and Lacey, who is 8th. I say I can hardly get used to this situation where for year after year McLaren, Ferrari have been saying, we know our car isn't good enough, but next year it will be. Well, that's what they said last year, and this year it is. There seems to be very little doubt now that the Ferrari, thanks not only to the work done by John Barnard, who designed it, but also by Ross Brawn and Rory Byrne, who have joined Ferrari from Benetton and have made that car reliable, and the improvements which were in the pipeline anyway are now coming through. The Ferrari is going to get quicker and quicker for the rest of this season, and if Michael Schumacher can just stay where he is now at minimum and win the race at maximum, he's going to be in a very strong position for the World Championship.
Yes, Schumacher's just going to be gnawing away at Villeneuve by staying in his mirrors for the first section of this race. He actually took 3/10 off of Villeneuve on the last lap, so he can match his speed, that's for sure. Villeneuve looked extremely quick out of Beckett's onto the back straight, so I don't exactly expect Michael Schumacher to cruise up and pass him. But interestingly, both Trulli and Wirtz, the new boys who've been doing so well, as they did in France, they've had a very bad start. So quite clearly, their lack of experience, and they're probably over-tentative going into the first corner, and Wirtz has slipped back to 10 and Trulli back to 13.
Lap 8, race order at Silverstone. Jacques Villeneuve leads Michael Schumacher, who is the fastest man on the track and has, of course, blown the lap record to blazes because the circuit has been changed. It's quicker anyway. The tyres this year are quicker. The lap record last year was 1:29.2, and Michael Schumacher has already been round in 1:26. So it's already 2.2 seconds faster than the previous lap record. Coulthard 3rd, Häkkinen 4th, Herbert 5th, Schumacher 6th, Irvine 7th. Now, I find this very interesting, Martin. We know how difficult it is to pass at Silverstone, and Eddie Irvine has been sitting on the tail of Johnny Herbert for lap after lap now, and seemingly can do nothing about it.
That's right, it's Irvine on the back of Ralf Schumacher. And yes, it is difficult through these high-speed corners. You lose aerodynamic effect from your car. Johnny Herbert's actually had a super start up there in 5th place. But you have to be at least a car length faster if you're alongside a guy to be a car length better than him under braking. Well, we don't hit the brakes in these things until we're about 80 or 90 metres from the corner doing 190 miles an hour. So to brake a car length later than the guy in front is virtually impossible.
So, lap 9, race order, Villeneuve and Michael Schumacher, the gap between them 1.6 seconds, so Jacques Villeneuve is resisting the pressure extremely well. They're both pulling away from David Coulthard, who's 7.5 seconds behind the leader, 3rd position. Häkkinen is 4th, Herbert is 5th, Ralf Schumacher in the Jordan is in 6th position, just ahead of Eddie Irvine. And look, you can see the 3rd to the 7th, almost nose to tail as they go round the corner there. As you watch the battle for 3rd position, Coulthard, Häkkinen, then Herbert, Ralf Schumacher and Irvine. Up front, no change. We're on lap 11. We're over 1/6 of the race now, 59 laps. And Jacques Villeneuve leads Michael Schumacher by just 1 second. And although it's easy to make a judgment watching the race, which can prove to be false, Michael Schumacher is looking very comfortable. He's 14 points ahead of Villeneuve in the championship at the present moment. Villeneuve's on 10 points, Schumacher's on 6 if they finish where they are now, but there's still some 48 laps to go.
That's right. What's interesting for me is that Michael Schumacher, 3 or 4 laps ago, Michael Schumacher had a bad lap and lost a second to Villeneuve, obviously made a small mistake somewhere, and immediately pumped in 3 fast ones and pulled the gap back to under a second, and setting a new lap record of 1 minute 25.5. So it looks like Michael Schumacher can keep him in his sights, but he's driving the wheels off that Ferrari, and Villeneuve looks slightly the more comfortable.
Here's a hypothesis, Martin. David Coulthard is holding people up. We know how difficult it is to get past. The gap between Schumacher, who is second there, and Coulthard, who is third, is increasing all the time. It's 12 seconds now, and all the others behind Coulthard, Hakkinen, Herbert, Schumacher, Irvine, are piled up close. Is he holding them back?
Well, he could well be. He does look like he's lapping. He's 1.5 seconds off the leader's pace, and he does look like they're climbing all over the back of him, and he's got a very wide McLaren, and Mika Hakkinen wishes he'd got a very skinny McLaren. And I would think the team will be wishing that David might just move over and let Mika go, because Mika does seem to have had the edge around here over David all through the test last week and all through this weekend, but David got that fabulous start, and he's not going to give it up, and why should he?
There's the man who's trying hardest, Eddie Irvine, as Coulthard comes towards us. Hakkinen, Herbert, Ralf Schumacher, Irvine, that's Fisichella, there is Alesi, there is Wurz, that's Nakano. Damon Hill is in 12th position.
Yes, Nakano's got ahead of Damon somewhere in the start, and it stayed like that pretty much since. But a wonderful shot there as they turn into Copse and later on into Beckett's, the direction change. And that's what soaks your energy up inside the car. The G-force is when you tweak the steering wheel to turn in at 160, 170 miles an hour into a corner. Your whole body gets pushed to the side of the car. Your head wants to roll off of your shoulders. And it's an incredible experience.
Now, here's something interesting. We've been saying how down on power the Arrows is. Well, Damon Hill in 12th position is lapping at about 127.8. David Coulthard is lapping 127.9. Hakkinen 127.9. Herbert 127.8. In other words, Damon Hill in 12th position in the Arrows Yamaha is holding on to all the cars in front of him, and I'm still thinking that if they could only get past David Coulthard, which Hakkinen is showing no signs of being able to do. There's Coulthard, there's Hakkinen, behind him is Johnny Herbert. So Hakkinen cannot get to grips with Coulthard, Herbert cannot get to grips with Hakkinen. The gap between Ralf Schumacher, who is 6th, and Johnny Herbert remains about the same, and Eddie Irvine is pushing all the time in 7th position. Williams-Renault leads, Ferrari 2nd, McLaren 3rd, McLaren 4th, Sauber 5th, and Jordan is in 6th position.
But these two are in a class of their own so far. They're really just walking away into the distance. Still, Michael Schumacher's keeping that gap around a second, and you can see him charging into the corner there. The back end of the car was light. Now he's squeezing the throttle. This is where the tyres overheat now. Look at the back of the car snaking around as he's trying to get the 700-odd horsepower into the tarmac. And the Ferrari's not doing it quite as well as the Williams, but Schumacher's just driving for all he's worth. And he wants to try and push Villeneuve. He's not going to beat him on out-and-out pace. He's going to hope that he can get down the pit lane and get out of the pit lane. There's Frentzen explaining himself. He's had plenty of time to think about what he's going to say to Frank Williams on his way back to the pits.
Well, I know this is an early statement, but it looks as though Frank Williams might be saying goodbye to him at the end of the season. I talked to Frank earlier this week, and he was very supportive of Heinz-Harald Frentzen, but the fact remains that it's the German who always seems to have the bad luck, and the French-Canadian Jacques Villeneuve has the good luck in the Williams team. And again, you see Eddie Irvine there in 6th position, trying to get past Ralf Schumacher, and that's giving Fisichella the opportunities behind them to close up. And Fisichella in the 2nd yellow Jordan is actually closing on Eddie Irvine. So Irvine can't get past the car in front of him, Ralf Schumacher, which is giving Fisichella the chance to close up, and it's the situation at the front as in comes Jan Magnussen in the Stewart Ford from 17th position. He's in, well, they're going to change the tyres almost certainly anyway, that's a precaution. In goes some fuel. Well, I certainly wouldn't have expected a stop as early as that.
Well, unless he felt he got a slow puncture or a blister or something on the tyres. Louise has found Heinz-Harald down in the pits.
I had a problem with the car on the start there.
Yes, I had a problem at the start. The engine died. Second start was bad because somebody kicked me from behind. I had a tire broken, tire puncture. I had to stop.
Not the start of the race you were looking for, obviously.
No, very disappointed. So
Well, you said they seem to have different luck in that team, Murray, but you make your own luck, I can promise you that.
Well, and I may be wrong about Magnussen, because if he's on a 3-stop strategy, he would have come in round about lap 15, and we're on lap 16 now, and then he would come in again probably round about lap 30 and lap 44, something like that. But that could well explain the fact that he has come in so comparatively early, and we're on lap 16 now, and Damon Hill comes in. Now, you should know what his strategy is.
Well, I asked him just before I came up to the commentary box how many times he's stopping, Damon, and he said twice. So I'm surprised he's in so early, but he may do a long middle stint. Doesn't mean to say they're totally committed to 3 stops, of course. Long refueling there. They did put a lot of fuel in, so he may be doing a long middle section.
Yeah, it's a very long pit lane at Silverstone. There's a 75-mile-an-hour speed limit in it, as usual on race day. Damon's pit is almost at the end of the garage complex, so he would have come in pretty slowly and can get out pretty quickly, although they're up to 75 miles an hour in absolutely no time. We're on lap 16 now. No change at the front. Villeneuve, Schumacher. The battle for third is what you're looking at. Coulthard, Häkkinen. There's a gap between them and Johnny Herbert, who is 5th. Ralf Schumacher has got Eddie Irvine right behind him. There he is. Fisichella is in 8th position. And then 9th and 10th are the 2 Benettons. Another poor race for the Whitney team. 9th and 10th, Alesi and Wurz ahead of Nakano. Damon Hill, of course, who was 12th, has come in and has dropped places. Jarno Trulli moves up to 12th in the second Prost. And the weather report from the commentary box is good. The skies are clear.
You saw Villeneuve there just kicking up the dust. It won't hurt him on the exit of Stowe, where he kicked up the dust, but it tends to hurt you next time under braking. That tyre's got dirt on it, and depends how dirty the track is, but this can often just soak in as well and hurts that tyre for the rest of that particular stint. And Barrichello in for his first stop, new set of boots, lots of gas. Bye-bye, see you later.
9.4 seconds, and Barrichello had a dreadful time yesterday because they had the new Ford V10 Series 7 engine in. They are actually, in effect, doing their development in public, which is a tough thing to do, because if it goes wrong, everybody knows it's gone wrong. But they've decided that's the best thing to do, and Barrichello had trouble with his engine yesterday, so does Magnussen, and Barrichello in this race has got the older engine.
You saw the R. question mark on the Williams there. Obviously, that's the way round the cigarette advertising limitations that they have, that's beginning to affect Formula One. Has been in the news a lot, and different teams and different cigarette companies are finding various alternatives and ways around that.
I would be fascinated to know what's going on in Michael Schumacher's mind. He looks so comfortable, but so does that, for that matter, does Jacques Villeneuve. They're lapping, obviously, as near as makes no difference, the same time. And Johnny Herbert is now in from 10th position because he's come into the pits. Ahead of him has gone Irvine, Fisichella and Alesi.
Brilliant stop there from the Sauber team, 6.9 seconds. I used to do a ridiculous thing when I had a good stop like that. I would radio in and thank the boys, which was silly because you'd nearly crash as you're going through Beckett's or something. But it is a great feeling because you think it's fast watching it. When you're sitting inside the car, it feels about half that time.
Now, David Coulthard, we're looking at a replay. Let's see. Oh, David Coulthard locks up his left front tyre.
Yes, the left front's unloaded as you turn the steering wheel there. The outside, the right-hand tyre there, takes up the load as the car rolls. Inside one goes light and locks. That'll look like a 50p piece when he's finished with it. Luckily, David, you're in for a stop soon.
Yes, because he will have flat spotted the tyre, which will create terrific vibrations, but he's due for a stop very shortly. If he's on a 2-stop strategy, he's on lap 19 now, and he'll be coming in any lap now. From 3rd position, pursued by Mika Häkkinen. He's certainly not stopping on this lap. And the gap between Coulthard, who is 3rd, and Schumacher, who is 2nd, just over a second behind Villeneuve, is now 24.5 seconds. So Villeneuve and Schumacher are stroking away from, look at the enormous gap on the circuit behind the Ferrari.
Well, Villeneuve working hard there too, running extremely wide on the Exeter Club. So he's trying to stretch that lead, and Michael Schumacher's sitting there. I'm going to get you. I'm going to get you. Trulli's in the pits.
Jarno Trulli in from 13th. That's in the Prost. The Prost will have the Peugeot engine next year. We don't know whether the rumour that the Prost will also have Damon Hill next year is true or not. He's obviously keeping his own counsel on what's going to be happening in 1997.
Well, there's a feeling that up to 9 drivers could move in the merry-go-round this year, and obviously Damon Hill is in the middle of all of that, but there's so much speculation, and really 1 or 2 key things to fall into place here. There's usually 1 or 2 key players, and then the music stops and everybody sits down. So that's not happened yet.
So Johnny Herbert's been in. Johnny Herbert has rejoined in 14th position in the Sauber. And don't think we're not grateful, Martin, but what about this drive that you were offered in the Sauber?
Yes, they rang me up last Tuesday, actually, just before the race, and wanted me to drive it, but I felt that with no testing, you're not allowed to test in the week of a Grand Prix. I had no seat ready for the car, which is not a big problem. And really, Murray, I'm not sure I could bear to lose you, and I think I'd miss you too much, you know?
Flattery will get you everywhere. Right, lap 20, so this is 1/3 distance, 59-lap race. And still the McLarens occupy those 3rd and 4th places. It's not going to change until one of them comes in for a pit stop. They won't come in on the same lap, of course. One will come in on one lap, the other will come in on the next lap, unless they're running a different strategy, which seems pretty unlikely at the present moment. One of them might be going through for a one-stop strategy, and that's Norberto Fontana, the young Argentinian who is deputising in the Sauber team for Gianni Morbidelli, who's broken his arm and is recovering from it. And Gianni Morbidelli himself was deputising for, well, he wasn't deputising, he was replacing Nicola Larini.
Well, we keep seeing flashes of Häkkinen's view of the back of his teammate, David Coulthard. Different line they were taking out of Club a while back. And here's a move coming up. This is Hill sweeping back through on his new tyres, nicely in the slipstream. Marquez pulls out, takes the inside line into Stowe, and I'm off. I'm not surprised. He should be able to pass that car that quickly, especially with new tyres. But remembering, of course, he's also got quite a heavy fuel load.
Yeah, and it's only Tarso Marquez's 4th Grand Prix. It's only his 2nd Grand Prix of the year, because he's taken the place of Jarno Trulli, who's moved up into the Prost team to replace Olivier Panis, who's still recovering from his broken legs, and I'm glad to say the recovery is going extremely well. We're on lap 21 now. Villeneuve and Schumacher way out in front of everybody else. Coulthard and Häkkinen still 3rd and 4th, and the Ferrari team are ready to bring in Schumacher, is it, or Eddie Irvine? Well, it could be either. I suspect it's going to be Irvine, because he clearly cannot do anything about Ralf Schumacher in front of him, and he might just as well come in and change his tyres and wheels and hope that in effect he can have a quicker pit stop than Schumacher when he comes in, and pass him in the pits and gain a place and move up into 5th position. But we'll see. Meantime, Häkkinen is having a go at Coulthard.
Yeah, no real chance of overtaking him. He's just trying to distract him. He's trying to flash around in his mirrors, so that it's very difficult to pick a braking point there. And it's Schumacher. It's Schumacher, James.
Bit of a surprise, actually, Martin. I didn't expect Michael in this quite this soon, but I think they saw that Williams were getting ready. Jacques Villeneuve just got the arrow last time by, so now Jacques Villeneuve's got to put the hammer down. He's got this one lap, his in lap, to go as fast as he possibly can. 7.1, Ferrari really working hard. Let's see what Villeneuve can do. Be with us in about a minute, I would say.
Clever strategy there, because they've pitted a lap early. That means with his new tyres, if he can absolutely nail this outlap, he could get track position over Villeneuve. Villeneuve's coming up behind some traffic, and also the in-laps are critical too. You can't afford to lose 2 seconds on your way in passing traffic. Michael Schumacher could get track position on him. He's got to do a lot of work on that outlap, though, to make up that second odd. But this is critical. If Villeneuve is on his way into the pits, and I believe he is, then he does not need this traffic.
And he does not need just Verstappen in his way. It was just Verstappen who collided with Heinz-Harald Frentzen. The V8-powered Tyrrell is obviously much slower than the V10 Renault-powered Williams of Jacques Villeneuve, and Villeneuve desperately does not need to be delayed. Verstappen moves over and lets him through. Meantime, remember that Schumacher, as Villeneuve comes into the pits, Schumacher is the fastest man on the track. James, Villeneuve approaching you right now.
Right, Murray, I've figured out what Ferrari are doing. They've changed the tyre cover so that to try and fool me and obviously the Williams team as well. We thought it was Irvine coming in first. Anyway, has Villeneuve done enough? When he comes out after this stop, will he be in front? Patrick Head, he's just team technical director. There's a problem on the left front, I can see. I think they're having a problem getting the wheel nut on. This is the lead getting lost, boys. 12 seconds, 13. The lead is going. But Patrick's already upset because Frenson's out. He keeps saying, why can we not get 2 cars to finish?
Shut up, Jack.
Murray, back to you.
Yes, Schumacher is in the lead, and that has possibly ruined the race. Well, it has ruined the race for Jacques Villeneuve. I said that Heinz-Harald Frentzen had all the bad luck in the Williams team this year. Well, Jacques Villeneuve brought some bad luck on himself in Canada. 33 seconds. Now, that's 26 seconds longer than Michael Schumacher. And the German, as Eddie Irvine leads the track, the second Ferrari is on new tyres, and the German double world champion who is leading this year's World Championship, Michael Schumacher there, leads the British Grand Prix by an enormous margin now from David Coulthard, who's yet to come in. Mika Häkkinen in 3rd place, and I can't tell you where Jacques Villeneuve is exactly, but he's right down in the running and has got it all to do. And Patrick Head having an inquiry about what went on in that pit stop. Why was Villeneuve delayed so much?
Obviously, these wheel nuts are extremely hot. The stub axle is hot, and they're designed so that they will come undone under the incredible temperatures that they operate at. But that one didn't work, and 3 wheels on your wagon's not much good around here. They had to wait to change that tyre. Some people say, well, just leave the old one on then. But you can't do that either, it'll just wear out. So sooner or later, that tyre's got to come off. And the critical thing for Villeneuve is now, will that put him behind the 2 McLarens or just in front?
Well, if looks could kill, everybody in the Williams team would drop dead, because Patrick Head had got a face like thunder as he got back onto the pit lane. He's been extremely worried, depressed about the fact that the Williams team this season seem to have lost their fabled reliability, because they have only had both cars finish in the points in 1 race this year. Jacques Villeneuve is in 7th position now. Michael Schumacher leads the race. David Coulthard is 2nd. Häkkinen is 3rd. Fisichella, thanks to all the pit stops and a very quick lap that he's done. You're watching Villeneuve now, 7th position. Fisichella is 4th. Alesi is 5th. Wurz is 6th. So both the Benettons are in the points. And Jacques Villeneuve will surely be putting up the fastest lap of the race now. But he's 12 seconds behind Wurz, who is in 6th position. Ferrari leads, McLaren 2nd, Jordan 3rd, and Benetton's 5th and 6th. We're on lap 24 now, and I find it extremely significant that neither of the McLarens have yet been in. Does this mean that they are on a 1-stop strategy? Because it seems to me that they're leaving things pretty late if they're on a 2-stop strategy.
Well, we saw in Canada that the McLaren is as kind on its tyres as any car out there, so they may well be doing, which is very bad news for Villeneuve. He's now got to come through the pack. But James has some more news for us in the pits.
A couple of things, Martin. First of all, I'm 95% certain that the McLarens are 1-stopping it. The mechanics are just sitting around very relaxed, very calm. They've done it a couple of times already this year, and as you say, in Canada, they were very soft on the tyres. I've just had a look at the wheel nut, however, that came off Villeneuve's car. The original wheel nut, what happened was it sheared. A piece came off it, and so they had to get a new wheel nut out there, put it on, and that's where all those time was lost. 33 seconds. Villeneuve now down in 7th place.
Well, that's not bad teamwork, that's not bad drill, that's not bad organisation, it's just bad luck, because you don't expect that to happen.
No, and the guy on the move now is Fisichella. He's cruised up behind the 2 McLarens and given them quite a hard time. So Häkkinen, instead of trying to put a move on Coulthard and weaving around, has suddenly got somebody giving him a bit of that treatment behind him. There's Fisichella, hasn't stopped yet, as have neither of the McLarens, nor either of the 2 Benettons.
Well, here's the way the strategy thing looks like unfolding to me. Michael Schumacher, who has stopped once, would seem to be on a 2-stop strategy. There you can see Coulthard, Häkkinen, McLaren and Fisichella Jordan, 2nd, 3rd and 4th, none of whom have stopped, would seem to be on a 1-stop strategy. The same surely applies to Alesi and Wurz.
Yes, Coulthard, they're locking an inside wheel yet again there in Brooklands, and but they're still, he didn't give them chance to overtake. He's still got it in.
Lap 27 coming up to half distance, and it is very clear that Coulthard, Häkkinen, Fisichella, Alesi and Wurz, who are virtually together on the track, are all on a one-stop strategy. And Häkkinen is doing his best to get past Coulthard. Here's a replay. That's Mika Häkkinen. There is Fisichella, who is in 4th position. Behind Fisichella, Alesi and Wurz. They're about a second each behind the Jordan of Giancarlo Fisichella. And on lap 28, Michael Schumacher leads the British Grand Prix. Is he on his way to a hat-trick of victories? Because he won in Canada, he won in France, and if he wins in Britain... now we're looking at Giancarlo Fisichella, the young Italian who drove for Minardi last year. We've had a really, really good pit stop from Johnny Herbert, just 6.9 seconds. Herbert, by the way, is in 8th place. Damon Hill is still in 12th position.
12.4 seconds. Fisichella, that's a normal time, a good stop, reasonably good stop for a one-stopper. A lot of fuel to go on board to get him to the end of the race. So I spoke to Goodyear before this. David Coulthard locking his left front again, and he's run wide. Now he's run wide in club, and he's going to lose out to Fisichella too on the exit if he's not careful. Now, of course, Fisichella's just pitted. That was lucky for David, but Häkkinen has finally got through, and now David has both Benettons homing in on him. Yeah, he's been threatening to do that all race, locking that left front, and now it's finally cost him.
So Häkkinen sees his opportunity, seizes it with both hands, goes past David Coulthard up into 3rd position, and we're going to be more than interested to see whether the flying Mika Häkkinen, who is really back to the old Mika Häkkinen that we knew before he had that awful crash in Australia in practice at Adelaide, is going to be able to close on Michael Schumacher, who we are watching, who is in the lead. Now, Häkkinen was some 22 seconds behind Schumacher, who's lapping in about 1 minute 27, about the same as Häkkinen was. But now Häkkinen's got a clear track in front of him, but making up 27 seconds on Michael Schumacher is going to take a lot of doing. Let us not forget, however, that Michael Schumacher has got to come in again, and that Mika Häkkinen, we believe, will only be making one stop. Look, here's a replay of what happened.
Here we are into club, the unloaded left-hand tyre. He's stayed on the brake pedal. He's fully committed to the corner. Should have been a bit of cadence braking there, would have helped. Bumped along the grass, cost him 2.5 seconds that, and he was lucky only to lose a place to his teammate Häkkinen. And I think at this moment the McLaren pits will actually be quite pleased about that, as strange as it may seem.
Now, to get into a pit stop, from the time you enter the pit lane to the time you leave it, and that's the true judgment of how long a pit stop takes, is some 30 seconds. And Michael Schumacher at the present moment is 22 seconds ahead of Mika Häkkinen, who is going to stop once. Schumacher is going to stop once too. So on balance, it looks as though it's a good race for Schumacher.
And there he goes again, and he has adjustment in the car. You can move the brake balance. Normally you'd do a half a turn or a full turn to the rear to distribute more of your pedal load, your brake pedal load, to the rear brake calipers. So David does have that under control. Lots of tricky brake systems on these cars this year that do change the balance depending on speed and G loads, and obviously it's not working for David, but there's Villeneuve homing in on the lot of them.
4 cars together, and they are Coulthard, Alesi, Wurz and Villeneuve. Villeneuve, remember, had that 33-second pit stop. He's the fastest man on the track, 1:25.3, new lap record. He's pressing Alexander Wurz, who is right behind Alesi, who is right behind David Coulthard, who is in 3rd position. Round Stowe, the right-hander, into the Vale. They're doing about 180 miles an hour as they approach the left-hander, which enters club. And again, Coulthard locks up, and he's going to lose a place because Alesi's right up behind him. David Coulthard fights back. Wurz is trying to get round Alesi, and Villeneuve is up behind all of them. Wurz is coming through on the inside. No, he's not. Alesi dodges out. And all the time, Jacques Villeneuve is looking for his opportunity to move up from 6th position.
When you're coming up to lap cars, there's nothing worse than coming, in fact, not lapping, but coming up to a group of cars as Villeneuve is. There's nothing worse than them having a good scrap amongst themselves. They're not watching out for you, and they're not about to give up time and let you through either. Anyway, this is for position, so this is going to cost Villeneuve dearly. He's going to hope that these lot are going to peel off into the pits very quickly, and I think Coulthard just did. Yes, he did.
So, David Coulthard into the pits from third position. Alesi and Wurz and Villeneuve all move up. And Eddie Irvine is in 8th position. Damon Hill is in 12th position. There is Coulthard. James.
Looking, Murray, to see the tyres, because he's obviously had real problems keeping the grip. The tyres actually don't look that badly affected. Not a bad stop, very slick from the McLaren team, 9.2. Again, looking at the tyres, difficult to see why he was losing so much grip. There's no blistering that we've seen in the last 2 or 3 races. They look not too bad at all.
Michael Schumacher's pit stop, the sole pit stop so far, was 7.1 seconds. David Coulthard 9.2. But of course, David Coulthard on a one-stop strategy will have taken, we believe, will have taken on a lot more fuel than Schumacher did, because he's going through to the end of the race and he's down in 6th place.
As we expected, Hakkinen we just had a glimpse of. He's screamed away from that pack now. He's got past David Coulthard, pulling out 7.5 seconds. That puts him in good shape for his pit stop. That must be looming up to stay up there in 2nd place. Villeneuve has got to contend with those 2 Benettons. He's going to be hoping they're coming in the pits too, this lap or the next lap.
And you're looking in the background at Michael Schumacher closing up on Norberto Fontana, the Argentine who is in the Sauber in 14th position. Ahead of Fontana is Jarno Trulli, who's having a very poor race. We expected a lot better from him in the Prost here on the Bridgestone tyres. Now let's see how superstar Michael Schumacher deals with a newcomer to Formula One, Norberto Fontana, as he comes up to lap him. Fontana turns across, closes the door, and of course all the time Michael Schumacher is losing time through his inability at this point to get past the 2 cars in front, Fontana and Trulli. Now is Schumacher going to get through? You can see the car behind him is Rubens Barrichello in the Stewart Ford. He's in 15th position ahead of his teammate Jan Magnussen. Salo is 17th, Marquez is 18th. There are still 20 cars running out of the 22 who started. Pedro Diniz and Schumacher goes through, takes Fontana, which gives Barrichello the opportunity to close up on the Sauber and have a go for 14th position. Very unhappy race for Rubens Barrichello. Remember, he started right at the back of the grid in 21st position after all those problems he had with his engines yesterday in qualifying. So Michael Schumacher carving his way through the field, and of course Mika Hakkinen is going to have exactly the same problem later on, but he'll just hope that the traffic will have thinned out a bit by the time he gets to it, or that they are more cooperative, and it'll give him the opportunity to close on Michael Schumacher. The gap at the present moment is 21.9 seconds. We're on lap 33. It's a 59-lap race, but Schumacher in what has proved to be a very reliable Ferrari this year. He's only had 1 failure to finish, and that was in Argentina. Looks as though he's on his way to another 10 points to add to the 47 that he's already got. And Ferrari are in a very strong position in the Constructors' Championship too. They're leading it. Schumacher's on 10 points. Eddie Irvine is just out of the points in 7th position. And here are the 2 Benettons, Wurz following Alesi, and Villeneuve there, who is in 5th position. But he is not lapping, obviously, any quicker than the Benettons in front of him.
He seems to have cruised up behind them and then just keeping station. I don't know why that is, why he's not really all over the gearbox of Wurz. I would think he ought to be able to pass Wurz without too much difficulty. Wurz's tyres are going to be pretty second-hand by now, to say the least. Villeneuve's on a much fresher set. Obviously, the 2 Benettons are getting very low on fuel. They must be. They're 33 laps into the race and they haven't yet stopped. But nonetheless, I'm surprised Villeneuve is not climbing all over the back of them.
Yeah, 33 laps is when I would have expected a one-stop strategy, and here is the proof, because Mika Hakkinen, 22 seconds behind Michael Schumacher, who has also got to stop again, comes into the pit. Now, David Coulthard took 9 seconds. James?
Well, Murray, it's 15 kilograms extra of fuel is worth about 0.6 seconds a lap here. On a one-stop strategy, he's going to be carrying more fuel than that over the top of Michael Schumacher. So in terms of racing Schumacher, 9.9, not bad. In terms of racing Schumacher, I don't think Hakkinen has a chance today. But in terms of Alesi, who hasn't yet stopped and who was 6 seconds behind, will now have gone into 2nd place. That's where the race is between these 2.
You're absolutely right, James. One-stop strategy is not the right strategy to win this race. It's a podium strategy. For sure, Goodyear was saying before the race that all of the cars can go one stop for tyre wear, but with performance-related, i.e. carrying the fuel and tyre degradation, it's not worth it. It's faster with two. And I'm surprised so many cars are going one-stopping. They're obviously looking for track position, but I don't think it's going to, unless there's mechanical failures, it's not going to get them anywhere. Damon Hill sweeping through Beckett's.
And he is in 12th position. He stopped once. He's told Martin he's on a two-stop strategy, so he will be coming in round about lap 40 for his second stop. We all know that the Arrows team have been working very hard on the reliability of their cars and their Yamaha engine, but because first you have to finish, and then when you're finishing regularly you can work hard to improve your performance. And one of their major problems is that they've been having all sorts of breakages, as a result of which they haven't finished. So if they get home here for the second race in succession, they'll be on their way to improving performance. As you look at Alesi second now, Wurz third, Villeneuve fourth, Johnny Herbert is still in 5th position, 3.8 seconds behind Villeneuve. Eddie Irvine is up into 6th position, so both the Ferraris and both the Benettons are in the points.
Villeneuve needs to hurry up. I don't know why he's swanning around there, because Schumacher took 2.3 seconds out of him on the last lap. And you know, this is a turning point for the World Championship. We head into the second half, and he's really got to be flying. I don't know whether he's a bit dispirited because the team let him down on that pit stop, but whatever the reason, he should be slithering up the inside of Wurz. He needs to win this race to come back at Michael Schumacher. It's no good sitting there.
Yes, it's a very interesting turnabout, because I was one of the many people who were confidently forecasting that Villeneuve would win the World Championship this year. And Villeneuve himself was pretty confident that he was in with more than a shout, and he's had so many blows this year. In Australia, he had Eddie Irvine drive into him. In Italy, for the San Marino Grand Prix, he had a gearbox problem. In Monaco, he had tyre problems, as a result of which he went off in the wet when Williams got the strategy all wrong. In Canada, he shot himself in the foot by pushing the Williams into the wall at the end of the lap. We're with Alexander Wurz now in the Benetton, and this is a quite incredible performance. I know we're only over half distance and that there are still some 24 laps to go, but Alexander Wurz, who's only in his 3rd Grand Prix, the young Austrian, is in 3rd position. He's in a podium place, and that is a terrific performance. And Benetton are doing better in this race at this moment, with a long way still to go, admittedly, than they've done in any race this year, because potentially they've got both their drivers on the podium. One of them is coming in.
I think when it all shakes out after the pit stop, they're going to find themselves behind Herbert and Ralf Schumacher and Hakkinen. We think Alesi's coming in this time round, but yes, Wurz has come from nowhere, really. His history, he's lost the rear under braking there. Bit of a handful. He'll be pleased to stop for some tyres soon. But he shouldn't be there giving Alesi a hard time. Alesi has so much more experience. He knows Silverstone well. And yes, Villeneuve had a run at Wurz. Can he get down the outside? No. Locked his front wheel, no harm done there. Wurz protected his line extremely well. Villeneuve can now have a go up the inside into bridge. Wurz says, no way. That's mature stuff for a young guy, very mature stuff. Very, very impressive. And that's the kind of thing that changes team bosses' mind, changes their mood. They see a young driver pulling 1 or 2 strokes like that with an old hand behind them, and they mark him out for future stardom.
And look at Eddie Irvine. By the way, Damon Hill is still there. He's in 12th position. Everybody up to 12th has been lapped.
That's Schumacher.
That's Schumacher. Has he got a problem? Has he got a problem? Smoke pouring from the back of the car.
Well, unless he locked his front wheel and then the smoke came out through the under tray, either that or a bit of dust on the track, but there was certainly a lot of something coming out of the centre of his rear tyre. As we see Alesi leaving his stop, that's a great stop for a one-stop race. He's gone a long way into the race, so of course he doesn't need half tanks. He's already used up more than half of the fuel for the race, as it were.
Now, Eddie Irvine is right on the tail of Johnny Herbert, who is in 4th position. Now I think Schumacher coming in. He's got a problem of some kind. It's his second stop. This is roundabout. This is lap 37. James Allen, keep watching very carefully.
I think he's got a problem with the left rear of that car. We saw the smoke. James.
Mechanics descend upon the car. We're trying to see. They were pointing to the left rear. It's the tyre. It's the brakes, I think. Ross Brawn is at the back of the car. Doesn't like the look of it. He's walked away, but he's obviously happy that it's safe. 8.8 seconds. He's obviously happy that it's safe to continue. Meanwhile, a Lacey stop, by the way, just a few seconds ago was extremely slick and fast. But he was lapping in 1:27s prior to that, Schumacher in 1:24, so you can see how a one-stop strategy today isn't quick enough perhaps to win the race.
Yeah, that doesn't look like tyre smoke, that looks like brake smoke to me.
Okay, I think that's probably the grease coming out of the wheel bearing, something like that, because it was a short burst of smoke and then it's gone away, so it's not an engine problem. I'm pretty so. There you go, look, he's lost the rear of that car, the left rear's come adrift. That's a wheel bearing. Michael Schumacher then is retiring in this incredible race, and Alexander Wurz is going to take the lead in only his third Grand Prix. An absolutely sensational development. Ferrari then were destined not to win in Britain. Michael Schumacher was destined not to take his third successive victory. Now Jacques Villeneuve is in third position, and he's right on the tail of Alexander Wurz, who's got colossal pressure now because he'll know he's in the lead. There's Michael Schumacher. He's been passed by Villeneuve, by Herbert, by Irvine. Into the pits comes Damon Hill from 12th position. This will ease the pressure on him. He'll stay on the same lap because there's Wurz. Now, this is the new race leader on lap 38 out of 59, with Jacques Villeneuve looking strong for a victory because Alexander Wurz is going to come in. Jacques Villeneuve has stopped once. Wurz is coming in for his single stop. This is a fascinating race. Alexander Wurz leads on a one-stop strategy. Jacques Villeneuve is about to take the lead if Wurz does come in. And in he comes. Wurz comes into the pits and Villeneuve leads. What a shame for Wurz. If he'd have gone over the line, he would have been leading the race. James is in the pits waiting for Wurz now.
Well, we all have our 15 seconds of fame, but Alex Wurz has led a Grand Prix officially. But the question is now, can he win it? Villeneuve, of course, has to stop again. He's on a two-stop strategy. Wurz only on one. Just listen to that throttle, can you? Oh, you probably can't even hear me. Wurz had it completely held up.
And you've seen Rubens Barrichello slide out of the race into the gravel trap in the Stewart. His teammate Jan Magnussen is still running. He's in 17th position. So there's only 3 retirements so far on lap 39 out of 59. Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who collided with Jos Verstappen, but Schumacher into the pit lane, into the garage, out of the race, and bang goes 10 World Championship points. Smoke pouring from the rear of the car. I don't know what it is. Martin's guess sounds as good as any, and you can see there's a lick of flame there, so that could well be grease burning from the enormous heat. Well, Schumacher is used to finishing on the podium at worst, winning at best, but not here at Silverstone today.
Significant moment with regard to the 1997 World Championship, and Michael Schumacher is very, very aware of that. But it's good news for Eddie Irvine. He's now up into 2nd place. And Johnny Herbert in 3rd. We see Barrichello's car being taken away. Let's see what happens to him. He's blowing up just at the end of the hangar straight. And that can be quite a handful, I can tell you. Sometimes you get your own oil on your rear tyres, and the car becomes very unstable. He's going to drive off into the gravel trap. And, well, a bit of a strange parking place to choose there, Rubens. But anyway, he's out of the car. A long way. He's the furthest part away from the pits you can get.
And significantly, it wasn't the very latest evolution of the Ford Cosworth V10 that blew. It was the previous one, the P6 as opposed to the P7. So there's the Ferrari, lap 40 now, 19 laps to go. There is the new race leader, having fought his way up from 7th. Jacques Villeneuve leads Eddie Irvine by 4 seconds. Ralf Schumacher is 10 seconds behind the leader in the Jordan. Mika Hakkinen is 4th. Jean Alesi is in 5th position, and Alexander Wurz was 6th when he came in. Lap 42 out of 59, we ride with Ralf Schumacher, who is in 3rd place. So the Schumachers may have left the lead in the form of Michael, but they're in the top 3 places in the form of Ralf Schumacher. The young German, he's only 22 years old, and in his first season of Grand Prix racing, in fact this is only his 9th race, he's already finished in the points twice, including a podium position, and he could well have another one here if he can stick to this 3rd position. Lap 42, Villeneuve leads Irvine, both of whom have stopped once by 6 seconds, and he's lapping faster.
I think Ralphie could be coming into the pits on this lap. The Jordan crew are ready. He's got up into 3rd place with his 2-stop strategy, but I think it's a slightly false position there for him, and you've got to look down a little bit to Hakkinen, Lacey, Wirtz and Coulthard. He's going to end up behind them, and they haven't got to stop again.
Well, in he comes, Ralf Schumacher coming in from 3rd position, and his teammate Giancarlo Fisichella is very disappointingly down in 9th place.
Yes, Johnny Herbert somehow has slipped back. He's had an extra stop for some reason. He's on his 4th pit stop as we watch Ralf Schumacher. Herbert is still in the pits, as we can see, and a much better one for Ralf. Nearly stalled it getting away, up to 120 Ks. A tight little right-hander now at the end of the pit lane. Used to be very bumpy there, and now pick up speed, and you blend into the racetrack. Quick look in your left-hand mirror right at the last moment, and that's Fisichella. Fisichella off in the gravel.
And that lets Nakano up into 8th place. Shinji Nakano, who is well ahead of his talented teammate Jarno Trulli. And he's got back on, and of course he'll have his side pods full of earth and muck and stones. He'll have dirt on the tyres. He'll have to run some distance to get them clean again. You
can't believe the sound that next time you hit the brakes, when all the gravel comes rushing back up the side pods and radiator entries, comes out, and it sounds absolutely awful. Yeah. But that then leaves gravel all over the track for the next driver who comes along.
Now you're looking at Eddie Irvine, who is coming through on his 44th lap now, 6 seconds behind Jacques Villeneuve. His last lap was within 1/10 of a second of the French-Canadian, but things are certainly looking good for Villeneuve, depending on what further stops they have. There he is in the lead, looking very confident, and remember, he had a 33-second pit stop due to that broken wheel nut. He would have been a country mile ahead if he hadn't had that major problem. But he's fought his way up from 7th to 1st position. Here's a replay.
This is Fisichella into Copse. He's obviously gone in too deep into Copse. The back end came out. He had to correct. Now he's heading off in the wrong direction towards Northampton there. Crossed the gravel. He's just got to keep a little bit of throttle on. Whoops-a-daisy, that's about to fly, isn't it? And then you can creep. If the car grinds to a halt, you've had it, your history. It just bottoms out on the plank underneath the car. If you can just keep it going 5-10 miles an hour, you can creep out the far end of the gravel, as we saw.
Lap 44, there's the leader, Jacques Villeneuve. Well, he has already won 7 Grand Prix in his career. Johnny Herbert coming into the pit lane very, very slowly, and this looks like a retirement, sadly. He was in 17th position, and he has been into the pits 5 times already. That's his 6th stop. Villeneuve stopping. Now, let's see. He should be about 7 seconds on this stop.
Front wheel came off fine that time. The new wheel nut there working better. Good stop there for Villeneuve, and Irvine's in. Ferrari calling Irvine straight in to respond to Villeneuve's stop. And did he have a problem there? I think he could have the same problem as Schumacher with that left rear. He lit the rear up. He's got the same problem. Left rear, something to do with the drive shaft or wheel bearing, whatever. That's it.
Incredible. Both Ferraris out. We've been so used to Ferrari reliability. Well spotted, Martin, because he started weaving immediately he left the garage. And so now both the Ferraris are out, and that means that Hakkinen comes up into 2nd position. It makes the victory for Jacques Villeneuve seem even more certain, because he's well ahead of Hakkinen now, with a Lacey in 3rd position, Wirtz in 4th position, both the Benettons in the top 4, and the only constructor with both cars in the points, because David Coulthard is in 6th position. And what a turn-up.
Yeah, pretty certain that was the constant velocity join on the outboard end, just inside the rear wheel. and that could well be the same problem that Michael Schumacher had. The cars are designed the same, built the same spec, so it's not surprising they both go out with exactly the same problem, if I'm correct.
And you will find, obviously, that there's probably a faulty batch of components, because it wouldn't seem to have been a design problem if they hadn't had it before. So, retirements, Heinz-Harald Frentzen out of the race on the very first lap when he collided with Jos Verstappen after they had finally got the race going. Ukyo Katayama drives into the Armco at the start. Rubens Barrichello goes into the gravel trap. Michael Schumacher has a problem with the left rear of the car. That's a very disappointed Jean Todt, the Ferrari team manager, walking away with the knowledge that both his cars are out.
The roller coaster ride of being in Formula One. The last couple of races, we've seen them hugging each other, kissing, crying, throwing champagne around, and now the other end of the scale, utter total disappointment.
Lap 46, and Mika Häkkinen is in the lead. Jacques Villeneuve is 5.5 seconds behind him. Villeneuve, of course, having lost the lead to Häkkinen on that second stop of his. Mika Häkkinen, as far as we know, is on a one-stop strategy and keeping going.
So this is why I'm surprised that Villeneuve was sort of hanging around at the back of those two Benettons. It's now his lost track position to Häkkinen. He's got to pass Häkkinen now to win the British Grand Prix. They're both going to be on the same fuel load. They've both got the same number of laps to do to the end of the race. Neither of them have to stop. Tyres, he's going to have better tyres than Häkkinen. He's got a better car. He should pass him, but it's fraught with danger, and that's a Tyrrell that's Salo looking like he's obviously out of the race, backing him up one of the escape roads.
13 laps to go. Mika Häkkinen leads, and a quick look at Damon Hill, who is now in 9th position, going well. He hasn't been lapped. He's got Jarno Trulli behind him. He's looking strong. I'm not going to say any more in case he doesn't look strong all of a sudden, but what an incredible situation this is for Mika Häkkinen. He's been driving for McLaren since 1993, when he first entered Formula One in a McLaren against Ayrton Senna in Portugal and qualified faster than the great Brazilian. But he has yet to win a Grand Prix. He's had second places, he's had third places. And there's Villeneuve.
Yeah, Villeneuve cruising up behind him. Obviously Häkkinen in the 27s on that last lap, Villeneuve in the 25s, so he's making a lot of ground on him. But remember, Villeneuve had to take that blue Prost that's between them. Villeneuve's now got the same problem, and Häkkinen needs to stretch his legs now and just try to re-establish that gap, because he's going to have his mirrors full soon if he's not careful.
Yeah, Mika Häkkinen, having had a 10-second stop, he's going to be on tyres which are more worn, and Verstappen retires. All of a sudden, they are falling out of the British Grand Prix at Silverstone. That's the 7th retirement. It means both the Tyrrells are out. Salo has just gone out. Now he's joined by his Dutch teammate, Jos Verstappen, and we look at Mika Häkkinen grimly with the knowledge that he is leading the British Grand Prix on lap 48 with 11 laps to go, 2.7 seconds ahead of Jacques Villeneuve, with Jean Alesi in 3rd place. Coming up to the end of, this is the end of lap 49 into lap 50 in this 59-lap shortened race as a result of the aborted start. And Mika Häkkinen is leading in the McLaren Mercedes, and less than 2 seconds, 1 second behind him is Jacques Villeneuve, looking for another victory, his 4th of the year, to close the gap between himself and World Championship leader Michael Schumacher, who has retired, as has his teammate Eddie Irvine.
And Häkkinen's got a badly marked up left rear tyre we saw there just at the end of the straight. Badly marked up, and that's why probably the Villeneuve's homing in on him at something like 8-9 of a second per lap. But who needs this race win the most, Murray? Villeneuve needs it for the World Championship. Häkkinen needs it for his first ever Grand Prix win, despite being at McLaren for so many years. So this could end in tears, yet they both desperately need this win. But Villeneuve has the faster car.
Well, and remember how Villeneuve tries. Remember what happened in France when Villeneuve tried to take Eddie Irvine literally on the last corner, spun into the pit lane and recovered to finish in 4th position. If Jacques Villeneuve has got even a sniff of victory, he's not going to relax for 1 second. But the same thing applies to Mika Häkkinen. I know he was desperately, desperately disappointed when his teammate David Coulthard was the man for McLaren who won the World Championship race in Australia this year, the first of the year. And visually, anyway, Jacques Villeneuve is not making up any ground on Mika Häkkinen at the present moment as they go into Beckett.
I think he will on the exit of Beckett's here. Häkkinen's left rear tyre's not in good shape. It could even be blistered, and it's those we saw. Villeneuve making on the exit of Copse the first corner, and then again on the exit of Beckett's there, and that's where he's fast. He's getting a good drive off of those fast bends.
But just to keep you in touch with what's happening behind, as you do see Villeneuve start to close on Häkkinen. Lacey is 3rd in the Benetton, 11 seconds down the road. Wurz is 2 seconds behind his teammate in 4th position. David Coulthard in the 2nd McLaren is 5th. Ralf Schumacher in the Jordan is 7th, ahead of his teammate Fisichella. And they're coming out of the Vale now, round Club and on. You're looking at the Benetton now of Alexander Wurz. And here is Jan Magnussen. And he's been taken by the Jordan.
I think that's Fisichella lapping. It's the Jordan's lapping anyway, lapping the Stuart Ford there. Fisichella back in 7th place. We've had confirmation. I was right on Michael Schumacher's car. It was a wheel bearing failure, left rear wheel bearing failure.
Which presumably was the same problem that affected Eddie Irvine. It's of little import at the present moment to everybody except Ferrari, because they will be having a post-mortem. This is where our attention is on lap 52. Mika Häkkinen, Jacques Villeneuve, 1st, 2nd, 10 points for the winner, 6 points for 2nd, and Villeneuve looks as though he's in a strong position. But even if he catches Häkkinen, who looks in his mirrors as they go down towards Stowe, which they take at about 110 miles an hour. Catching Häkkinen is one thing in the closing stages of the race. Getting past him is going to be very different. Mika Häkkinen is going to make that McLaren as wide, legally and justifiably as he possibly can. McLaren haven't won a race since Australia, and before that they hadn't won one since Australia in 1993 at the end of the season.
That's right. Here's the aerodynamic effect, though. Villeneuve, having now got up to the back of it within striking distance of Häkkinen, is now lapping at the same time. In fact, Häkkinen was a few thousandths of a lap faster on the previous lap, and the gap looks about the same. The dirty air that Häkkinen's McLaren is using to such good effect to push the car onto the racetrack, that air is disturbed, and then Villeneuve's car's going through that, and his car's not working as well. He's lost track position, and well, if Häkkinen wins this on a one-stopper, then I was completely wrong, because I said I didn't think it would win the race. And I think without Villeneuve's 30-odd second stop for that dodgy front wheel, and without Michael Schumacher's problems, he wouldn't have been in with a shout. But here he is leading the race, and it's all to play for, and he's driving his heart out. But look, just inside his left rear tyre, about an 1/8 of the way in from the outside, you can just see a dark line to where, as he comes towards Stowe, you'll see it again. There it is on his left rear tyre, dark line going round it, and that must be Magnussen out of the race.
Yeah, Jan Magnussen goes out. That's the 8th retirement. So that means that, sadly for Jackie Stewart, the team is still struggling for reliability, and it looks like the engine, obviously, from the smoke that's coming from the back. Both the Stewarts are out of the race now. 3rd position does not look like a battle, because Alexander Wurz is deferring to his teammate. Last time we saw them, it looked to me as though Wurz was making no real effort to get past Jean Alesi, and Benetton will obviously be very, very... That's Häkkinen. That is Mika Häkkinen, and the McLaren Mercedes retires from the British Grand Prix in the lead. And my goodness, this is going to be a most appalling disappointment for Mika Häkkinen. There's the McLaren garage, and what a dreadful blow, as big a blow for poor Mika, in fact a bigger blow for Mika Häkkinen than the Ferrari retirement was for Michael Schumacher. Well, that is the 4th lead change that we've had.
it's gut-wrenching sitting there now. You've got to converse with the marshals. They're going to tell you what to do. You can't really hear them. They gesticulate. You don't know what they mean. You can't believe you're out of the race. You hear the other cars going past it. You just feel like you're being left behind so much, and you can't believe you're out of that race. You want to just pick it up and carry on, and then finally the adrenaline starts slowing down, and you get out of the car and plod back to the pits.
Well, Frentzen retired, but now we've got Jacques Villeneuve in the lead. Here's a replay, and we can see what happened to Mika Häkkinen. Yeah, it's the Mercedes-Benz engine unusually and atypically letting go out of the race. Well, that engine is designed, built and developed at Brixworth in Britain, not very far from where we are at Silverstone. They nearly saw it come home first. It's a very sad day for them. And Mika, as ever, maintains his sense of humour and does a Nigel Mansell at Silverstone by throwing his glove. Well, that is a wonderful sporting gesture, and my heart goes out to Mika, because he must feel more like bursting into tears than doing a generous thing like that. We're on lap 54 now. Villeneuve leads. Benetton look, although who can tell in this amazing race with so many people dropping out in strong positions. Benetton look as though they are going to get both their drivers home on the podium. Alesi second, and Alexander Wurz, in only his third season, must be making Gerhard Berger, who will be watching this race in Austria, feel even more despondent, because he's going to finish, if he finishes where he is now, on the podium. There they are, just maintaining station. Alesi hasn't got a hope of catching Villeneuve, although he's lapping about 1.7 seconds faster at the present moment. Wurz is not going to try to pass Alesi and risk taking both of them off. David Coulthard is in 4th place. Ralf Schumacher is in 5th place. And wonder of wonders, in 6th position is Shinji Nakano, the Japanese driver, who a lot of people have been tending to rubbish, who finished 6th in Canada to get 1 World Championship point. As we look at Coulthard passing Norberto Fontana in the Sauber and lapping him. And behind David Coulthard is Ralf Schumacher. So you can see there's a tremendous battle there for 4th and 5th positions.
He's got a blistered rear tyre there, Fisichella, so it's a strange time to be stopping. That's good news for Damon Hill. That puts him ahead up into 7th place within strike of a point, but Fisichella had to change those tyres. Remember, they were the tyres that had a trip through the gravel trap.
Well, now, is Damon Hill going to score a point? It would be poetic justice if the first point that Damon gets for the Arrows Yamaha team is at the place where people adore him more than anywhere else, Silverstone. They've turned out in their tens of thousands in the hope of seeing their hero do well. He did very well in qualifying, by qualifying in 12th position with only the acknowledged top team drivers ahead of him in the previous 11 places. He did phenomenally well in the warm-up this morning by being fastest. He's still running, and we're on lap 56 in this 59-lap race with Jacques Villeneuve that we were looking at a moment ago now as we look at the Benetton. 11 seconds in the lead. That is Wurz. He's 3rd, and he's 20 seconds ahead of David Coulthard. So it's looking like Williams car winning, Benetton 2nd, Benetton 3rd. McLaren 4th, Jordan 5th, Prost, watch it, Prost in 6th position. Damon Hill, however, is only 4.6 seconds behind Nakano. He's lapping marginally quicker, just a few tenths quicker. If he can push the Japanese driver hard enough, with a bit of luck, he might just get into the points. To some extent, I have to say that's wishful thinking, but it is possible.
Well, it's a solid race from Nakano. He had a good start and he's kept that position well. He's been in the hunt just behind that middle pack with the 2 McLarens and the 2 Jordans. And as the cars fall away, there he is up in 6th place. Good solid run from Damon Hill too. He's had a pretty tough weekend, one way and another, and kept his head, kept it all level, and he'll be reasonably satisfied with 7th, but a point I would think he'll be absolutely elated with. Villeneuve is apparently cruising to the win. You have to say, if Villeneuve wins this race, he's rather reversed into it, because Michael Schumacher had it under control when Williams had that problem with the front left wheel, and then Häkkinen's engine problem. But here he is, serenely on his way. And I think Wirtz would have a go at Lacey. If he didn't, I'd be very disappointed in him, Murray. Young Wirtz there in 3rd place. OK, it's a Lacey ahead of him, but who cares? If you've got a chance of a 2nd place, if you want to be a top Grand Prix driver, you've got to take it.
Yeah, and that certainly applies to Ralf Schumacher there in the yellow Jordan. He's not giving David Coulthard any peace. Incidentally, Jacques Villeneuve is on lap 57 out of 59 now. No battle for the lead. Questionable whether there's a battle for 2nd place. No question of whether there's a battle for 4th place. This is it. There's Schumacher in 5th position, and Damon Hill has not made any advances in terms of time on Shinji Nakano to try to get that single point for 6th place. But even if Damon finishes 7th, it will be by far his best finish of the year. He finished 9th in Canada, and he finished 12th in France. But before that, he'd failed to finish a race properly. We're with Ralf Schumacher now, looking at David Coulthard ahead of us as we come round the right-hander at Luffield, into the right-hander of Woodcote to complete the lap. And Villeneuve is now on lap 58. He's on his last lap but one. The question is not who's going to win, not who's going to be 2nd, not who's going to be 3rd, because Wirtz is dropping back a bit from a Lacey, but who is going to be 4th, and there is the battle.
That's right, it's easy to chase than be chased. You have a target in front of you, as Ralf Schumacher does there, and Coulthard has to keep glancing in his mirror, and you're convinced the guy's catching up, particularly in the slow corners. And then as you get on the power, you're on the power at least a car length earlier than him, and you tend to pull away again. But everything will be aching by now, and sometimes you hit the throttle coming out of that last corner into Woodcote, and you just groan with the pain. Everything hurts. But you know there's only a couple of laps to go. You've seen it from your pit board. You may even have a readout on your dashboard, and you've got to keep your head down. It's too easy to make a mistake in these last few laps.
And the rain held off. There was a 10% chance of having it. We're with Wirtz now. That is a Lacey ahead. Jacques Villeneuve is on his last lap. He's just exited Copse now. He's approaching and going through Beckett serenely by his standards. 10.8 seconds. Well, he failed to finish in Australia, in Imola for the San Marino Grand Prix, at Monaco, and in Canada. And out goes the Prost of Nakano, and that means Damon is in the points. Damon Hill is definitely in the points now. Jacques Villeneuve is going to win this race, but in another amazing development, Damon Hill is going to get the justice that he has deserved all season at, of all places, Silverstone. And that would be absolutely wonderful, but so will be this victory for Jacques Villeneuve, who, I remind you, has fought back after a 33-second stop. He lost the lead to Michael Schumacher, who retired. Jacques Villeneuve there rejoined in 7th place, and partly through retirements and partly through gutsy driving, got the lead back. He's about to win his 4th Grand Prix of the year to close the World Championship gap between himself and Michael Schumacher to 4 points. Yes, at Silverstone, Jacques Villeneuve, Williams-Renault, wins. And 10 championship points. Another victory at the British Grand Prix for Williams, and that gets constructors' points for them. Benetton finished 2nd and 3rd, and that is 10 points for them, 6 for Alesi and 4 for Wirtz, as Coulthard and Schumacher come out of the last corner, 4th and 5th. David Coulthard finishes 4th for McLaren. Ralf Schumacher finishes 5th, and now let's look back down the circuit, hopefully, and see Damon Hill coming in. He's a long way back.
Yeah, Hill's 38 seconds behind that scrap. We're on board now with Damon. Coming through Abbey, he's got bridge and the complex to do. Yes, he's already happy about it. You're not quite there yet, Damon, but just probably a kilometre to go. He's going to be ecstatic with that point. That's going to be the best 6th place he's ever had in his career, I can assure you. A strong performance from David Coulthard in 4th. Ralf Schumacher, good job, but for 2 points to Jordan, they could be slightly disappointed with that. But here comes Damon Hill, 6th place, 1 point for Arrows.
A great drive by Damon. He deserved that point. And look at the crowd. Oh, very happy. Short of Damon winning this race, this is the best reward they could have had. And remember that when Damon was talking to me before the race today, and I said to him, what ideally would you hope to do? What would be the best you could do? He said 6th would be nice. And I must tell you, I thought, yes, it jolly well would, but it's pretty unlikely.
Yeah, and his fans are very loyal. Give them all their credit. They gave him an enormous cheer for 1 point and 6th place. Well done, Damon.
Jacques Villeneuve has walked across to the crowd to greet and kiss his girlfriend Sandrine, who has come over from Montreal. Now he talks to an elated Jean Alesi, who's finished second for the 2nd time this year, but neither of them will be as pleased as that man Damon Hill, because Damon really does seem to have had his luck turn here at Silverstone. Qualified 12th very well, fastest in the warm-up this morning, and now he's fought his way home, not just to finish the race, which is significant, but to finish the race in the points. Alexander Wurz, the tall, lanky Austrian there, who's taken the place of Gerhard Berger, gets on the scales as well. That's mandatory for all the drivers to make sure that their combined weight with the car, as David Coulthard goes through to do the same thing, is not below the weight limit, which would give them an undue performance advantage. But Alexander Wurz can feel as happy as Villeneuve and Hill will, because in his 3rd Grand Prix he finishes in 3rd place. Now in the Constructors' Championship, the gap has narrowed. Ferrari, with the retirement of both Schumacher and Irvine, are now just 3 points ahead of Williams, and Benetton are in 3rd position, and they pulled away from McLaren. Benetton on 35 points. And of course, with Schumacher being out of the race, with Villeneuve having won it and got 10 points, that means that the gap in the Drivers' Championship has come down to just 4 points.
Well, not exactly one of the all-time great races, Murray. I think reliability robbed us of that, and Frentzen not making the start as Villeneuve there up onto the podium.
And John Prescott, the Deputy Prime Minister, is going to be there, is there to give the prizes with His Royal Highness Prince Michael of Kent, and it's going to be John Prescott, the Deputy Prime Minister, who gives Jacques Villeneuve, as we listen to "Oh Canada" for the 4th time this year. And now the national anthem for Williams, the Constructors' winner. Formula One is unpredictable. What if you'd told me before this race began that Michael Schumacher, Mika Häkkinen, Heinz-Harald Frentzen and Eddie Irvine were all going to retire, I would have doubted it. And I'm very, very happy, almost as happy as Villeneuve there with the magnificent Gold Cup, which he has just received, as Jean Alesi, who receives the second prize award from His Royal Highness Prince Michael of Kent, who is also going to give the third prize to Alexander Wurz. And it's a brave, brave sight to see two Benetton drivers up there on the podium. They've been struggling against adversity for a long time, and when they lost Gerhard Berger, as Tony Banks, the Minister of Sport, gives the winning Constructors' Trophy to Dickie Stanford, who is the team manager for Williams, it would seem that Berger's chances are slipping away of coming back to the Benetton team. But now, the inevitable champagne. An enormously interesting race. I would agree with you, Martin, not the most exciting of races for a lot of it, but when Schumacher went out, when Irvine went out, when poor Mika Häkkinen went out, when Damon Hill moved up into 6th place and got a World Championship point, we certainly had some very high moments.
No, that's for sure, and it's good news for us, the viewers, really, because Villeneuve just 4 points behind Schumacher. We're heading off to the German Grand Prix. It's going to be a great scrap there, isn't it? I'm looking forward to that.
Yes, the World Championship is wide open. I mean, this time last year, Damon Hill had an enormous lead, and everybody was delighted about it in Britain. But the fact remained that until Villeneuve closed up on him in the closing stages of the season, it was looking like a one-horse race. It certainly hasn't been this year, because Coulthard led, and then he tied with Villeneuve. Then Villeneuve took the lead, then Schumacher took the lead. Villeneuve took it back again, Schumacher took it back again, held it through the last race in France, and is now only those 4 points ahead as he goes into his home Grand Prix at Hockenheim, with the knowledge that the Mercedes-Benz engine from the design of Germany will be in very, very strong form to power the McLarens of Häkkinen and Coulthard. Silverstone has been terrific, and Hockenheim, I confidently predict, is going to maintain the pace. There's the confirmation. Jean Alesi then is a long, long way behind. The championship continues to be just between those two top drivers, Michael Schumacher and Jacques Villeneuve. 4 points between them. And sadly, both Stewarts out of the race. Nakano got that 1 point, and Damon Hill is now a point scorer.
Well, Jacques, well done on your 4th win of the season, and Williams Grand Prix 100th win. An interesting race for you, full of both bad luck and good luck.
Yeah, the luck turned a lot during the whole race. First, in the restart, we didn't know there was going to be the restart on that lap because the car turned its light very late. So I just lifted a little bit to make sure I wouldn't catch it when I accelerated, and then it went well for a few laps, and somehow the left front wheel became loose. So it was very difficult to drive the car because you had to turn the steering wheel a lot from one side to the other, and it became very heavy, and the grip wasn't good that way. And then when we came in the pits, that wheel stayed stuck, and it took quite a while to change it. We lost a lot of time and ended up 7th when we got back on the racetrack. But then the car was very strong, caught up the two Benetton drivers, both Wurz and Alesi, and well, they were on the one stop. They had a lot of laps, so they were sliding a little bit. And once they got out of the way, I could push a little bit, but still pitted behind Häkkinen, who then blistered his rear tire, so I could see that. And I was just waiting for the last few laps to make my move, but then he broke something before the end. So it's a great result for us. I think we needed it.
Were you surprised to see Michael going out so early? That must have been a great relief to you.
Yeah, it was, you know, because last year they used to do that quite a lot, and they didn't do it this year, so it was great to see that it happened to them as well, at least once this year, because we had our share of mechanical problems. So, you know, it's good. It balances out the championship.
Do you think you would have been able to get past Mika Häkkinen had he continued in the race?
Yeah, definitely, because he was starting to slide a little bit more and more. He had blistered his left rear tire, or something looked weird on it, and he was starting to slide more. So I think I could have made a move toward the end of the race, but it would have been very difficult.
Were you totally happy with your pit stop strategy of 2 stops?
Yeah, definitely. I think it was the right strategy. It's only that we lost a lot of time from lap 10 to 20, and in our first pit stop, else it would have been no problem.
Jacques, well done. Jean, you've been second here at Silverstone in 94 and 95, so it's a good result for you today.
Honestly, I'm really extremely happy because for the team, for everybody is very good because we had some problems at the moment in qualifying. We cannot be really on a good position for the start, and we are always in a condition to compromise for the race. So one stop, he was very good at this stage.
Were you surprised to be sitting here today, considering you started 11th on the grid?
Of course, yes. It's a good surprise because when you are doing a race with a lot of fuel like that, it looks like you are really slow and you feel to not be in a good shape. And suddenly you see on the board your position going down, and to be second, it's amazing for me.
Now, Alex Wurz was pushing you pretty hard throughout the race. Were you worried about that?
Honestly, I was happy to be on the front of the first corner because I knew before his capacity is very good, but my car was in a good shape. I had the possibility to keep this position, of course.
Now, Benetton are lying third in the Constructors' Championship. Can we expect Benetton to be doing better in the next few races?
I hope so. I try to push all the team as much as possible, but everybody is doing already flat out the work, and we're waiting some new parts, and I'm really confident now for the high-speed corners, high-speed circuits like Hockenheim. We are really on a good shape also with the engine, so that is in a good situation at the moment.
Well done, Jean.
Thank you.
Alex, only your third Grand Prix and third finish. That's a fantastic result for you.
Yeah, it's a very, very good result, and I'm really pleased. And you know, since I saw these press conferences, I always thought, what would you say if you come here? Now I lost everything, but I want to thank the team for the really great strategy. Without this strategy, Jean and me wouldn't have been here. Of course, we have to drive it as well, and I'm really, really happy.
Now, you were pushing Jean pretty hard. Did you, at any stage, think you were going to get past him, or were you told not to?
I was looking for maybe an overlapping maneuver that he's hold up, but in the end, after the pit stop, when it was clear, I decided to keep back by myself because it would have been dangerous. At the beginning of the race, I struggled really with the car with oversteering because we ran a lot of fuel and it was snapping oversteering. I thought, oh, this will be a very hard race. But when I ran down the fuel and with the second set of tires, the car was in a very good shape. So I was able to follow Jean without any problems.